Okay, welcome to Lime Time in Texas, our podcast series on lime. And today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Over the years, I've got a lot of questions asked to me, so I've kind of jotted down a lot of those questions. I'm going to try to do just a question and answer session here today, giving you really short, quick answers to as many questions as I can go through here today. So I want to start off with a little bit of a disclaimer and a comment. The answers that I'm going to provide are not going to be necessarily comprehensive. They're intended to be very concise and to the point as possible. The answers are basically my opinions based on my experience, and so they don't necessarily reflect any official position held by the Lime Association of Texas. Most of the answers that I'm going to talk about today pertain to lime used in soil stabilization or as an additive in hot mix asphalt. If you want more comprehensive answers to some of these questions or want to discuss any of these, please contact me. I'll be glad to go over any questions that you may have. Okay, I'll start off with the first question, just very basic of what is lime and how is it made? So lime is basically calcium oxide. The way that lime is made is if you take pure limestone, which is calcium carbonate, and you run it through a kiln at about 2,000 degrees. Basically what you're producing is calcium oxide, which is also called quicklime. So that's the short answer of what is lime. What is hydrated lime is the next question. Hydrated lime is basically quicklime. Once you add water to it, instead of being calcium oxide, it becomes calcium hydroxide. So it takes on about 22% by weight of water that chemically bonds with that lime. Calcium hydroxide is hydrated lime. Our next question is, what is lime slurry and how is it made? Well, lime slurry is basically made with quicklime. If you add water to quicklime, the reason that we make lime slurry is to make kind of a pumpable form of this that we can spread out on the project. So it's a mixture of about 60% water and about 40% lime. So it's kind of the consistency of a milkshake. This is the most common form that you see lime delivered on projects now across the state. There are other ways that you get lime, but lime slurry is the most common form that you'll typically see out there. The next question is, are there different types of lime slurry used for soil stabilization? Yes, okay. The two primary types are commercial lime slurry and quicklime slurry. And really the main difference there is that commercial lime slurry is made at a permanent terminal facility and shipped out to the project, where quicklime slurry is typically made on the job site through a porta-batch plant. They use a porta-batch plant, mix it with water at the quicklime, and you essentially get the same product. So lime slurry is, again, it's about 60% water, about 40% solids. So what actually goes into the ground is pretty much the same product, but when you specify it, you typically specify it either commercial lime slurry or quicklime slurry. The next question is, for soil stabilization, can you make lime slurry using hydrated lime rather than quicklime? The short answer to that is yes, you can do it. We typically don't recommend doing it. I've sometimes said it's the most inefficient way to make lime slurry because hydrated lime is basically just quicklime that you've added water to it and then you dry it back to a dry powder. So when you make lime slurry, what you're doing is just adding more water to it. So it can be done. We generally don't recommend it, and TxDOT doesn't allow it by specification anymore, but you do still see it. Some agencies still specify that, but it was the old way that we used to do lime back before we had slaker tanks and porta-batch plants, but in modern day, you don't see a lot of that used. The next question is, what type of lime is used as an additive in hot mix asphalt to improve the performance? So hydrated lime, the dry powder form of that I talked about a little bit earlier, is the only form that we used in hot mix. So you never want to use quicklime in hot mix, always hydrated lime. Typically about 1% roughly is what we used. And it's used as a mix enhancer in hot mix. It improves the rutting resistance. It improves the age hardening resistance to keep the asphalt from becoming brittle over time. It also acts as an active mineral filler in hot mix. So there are a number of advantages of using hydrated lime in hot mix asphalt. The next question is, how is agricultural lime used in hot mix asphalt? I guess, first of all, I probably should describe agricultural lime, but basically agricultural lime is just calcium carbonate. It's just limestone that's been finely ground up. It's never been through a kiln or burned at 2,000 degrees like actual lime has. Ag lime, the term you use ag lime or agricultural lime, it's used in hot mix typically just as a mineral filler when you need more minus 200 to kind of stiffen up the mastic of an asphalt. The next question is, when used in laboratory testing, how long can hydrated lime be stored prior to use? Generally, we don't recommend you storing it more than a couple of months. You can always get fresh lime from any of the lime suppliers. The biggest problem that you have is if you open and close that container, the lime can become recarbonate over time and you lose some of its chemical activity. So again, if you're opening a 5-gallon bucket, and I've seen labs before where they have a 5-gallon bucket and they use it for a year. Well, after a year of opening and closing that bucket, at some point that lime is becoming carbonated, not really working as lime anymore. It may act more like a mineral filler than anything else. The next question we have is lime classified as a hazardous chemical? No, lime is not classified as a hazardous chemical. It does have a pH of around 12.4. It does require some special handling techniques and gloves and eye protection and things like that, but it is not classified as a hazardous material. The next question is, what are the most common applications where lime is used? I'll just point out, lime is used in 75 to 100 common applications across the world. It's just a myriad of applications. Some of the most common are, it's used in steel production, it's used in making glass, it's used in making paint, it's used in water treatment, it's used in biosolids remediation, it's used in air scrubbers for emissions, it's used to control pH. In highway construction industry, we use it for soil stabilization. We also use it as an asphalt additive. So there's a whole bunch of different things. The terminology we use, in fact, there's a reason why we call lime the versatile chemical. So it's a chemical that, one, you can buy it anywhere around the world, and it's always the same. It's calcium oxide, and it's used in all of these different products. Next question we have is, what are some of the most unusual applications where lime is used? This is a good question. Corn tortillas are made with lime, food grade lime. One of the interesting ones I've seen is for storage of apples at these to make apples available year round. They store lime, have lime that's used to control the pH to keep apples from going bad in a warehouse. Lime's used in things like Tom Sawyer, the whitewash that Tom Sawyer used to paint the picket fence, that was lime, basically a lime wash. So it's used in paints and including that lime wash. So that's just some of the kind of more unusual things where lime is used. The next question is, when using lime slurry for soil stabilization, do you need to add more water? The easy answer to this one, the quick answer is yes. You almost always need to add more water. So some people think, well, since lime slurry has about 60% water and 40% solids, that's plenty of water to get this chemical reaction going and to continue that. But if you use lime slurry, what you often find out is that once that chemical reaction begins to happen, it basically consumes that water, and over time that soil will dry out. So generally speaking, you always want to keep that anywhere between about 1 to 3% above optimum, keep the soil above optimum. So yes, you always plan on adding more water even if you're using lime slurry. Okay, our next question is, when using lime for soil stabilization, is there a rule of thumb of when to add water? General rule of thumb is if you can pick the soil up with your hand and kind of clump it together and it's still dry and falls apart, then you need more water to where you get a little bit of moisture in there. So ideally, whatever technique you have to make sure that you've got enough water in there, you want to, again, just stay a little bit above optimum. So that's the good way of looking at it. Easy way of looking at it is just pick it up in your hand, squeeze it together, and if it doesn't kind of stick together and produce some moisture, wet your hand a little bit, then it's probably too dry. One of the things, and I think I've got a question later on that we talk about, call it the meatball test. You kind of form that that clay soil into a meatball and squeeze it. If you can't get just a little drop of water to squeeze out of there, then it probably needs a little bit more water in it. So that's all we have time for today. I'll be addressing some more of these in some future podcasts. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me and we'll add them to the list. Thank you for watching this episode of our podcast. If you want to learn more about the use of lime, reach out to us on our website at limetexas.org. You can also email me at dalerand@limetexas.org. And please follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.